Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Cole Phillips, author of The Adventure of the Twisted Truths and host of The Book and Dagger. And today we're going to be talking about another underrated movie. Now, I hope you guys have been enjoying these series of me talking about underrated movies because this is something I personally love to do. Is talk about movies or books that not a lot of people have read, or maybe that a lot of people have read, but they're not really that popular anymore, or just a lot of people don't know about them. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite underrated movies, and that movie is called Beyond the Mask. And basically, this is going to be there's going to be massive spoilers in this show, or this episode of my YouTube show, for the book or for the movie. Sorry, massive spoilers. So if you do not want spoilers, please just go ahead and check out this movie, and then you can come back and listen to me talk about this movie for a bit. But if you do want spoilers, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So Beyond the Mask is a really cool movie it's historical fiction, and it takes place in the 1700s, right before the American Revolution. Now, the main character's name is William Reynolds, and he is a mercenary assassin for the East India Tea Company. And so the East India Tea Company has done a lot of bad, evil things in India. They're just a very corrupt and greedy organization, and their leader, Sir Charles Kemp, is just not a good person. So, and he employs mercenaries, including William Reynolds, to do a lot of his dirty work for him. And now, so the movie opens with William and one of his fellow mercenaries they go on this mission, and they get these papers that have all this evidence from this investigation into the East India Tea Company that was going to get sent to Parliament. And they steal that information from the ship that it's on, so that Parliament can't find about all the evil things that the East India Tea Company has done. And then after this mission, William tells Sir Charles Kemp that he wants to basically quit being an assassin mercenary and just live a normal life. And Charles Kemp tries to persuade William to stay on because as he says, William has never failed him in all the times that William's worked for him. William's like, no, I want to live a normal life, settle down on a piece of land with some money, just live a normal life. And so Charles Kemp is like, oh, okay, that's fine. William doesn't know, however, that Sir Charles is planning to double cross him, because Sir Charles sets an explosion device under the carriage that William is getting sent away in, and has a couple of mercenaries try to take out Will. Will, however, is saved by a vicar who notices the explosive device and comes to Will's rescue. The vicar is killed in the explosion. Will manages to escape. He takes on the vicar's identity, goes to his little town where he lived, and basically assumes the role of the vicar that saved his life. And the newspapers all begin saying, "Oh, William, he died. This evil mercenary who did a lot of bad things in India. He's dead." And Will thinks he's escaped from his past. So he tries to make amends and do good, but he falls in love with this young British socialite. Her name's Charlotte Holloway, and he eventually asks for her hand in marriage. And she says she asks him to meet her uncle at Christmas, and then so they can get married with his approval. Well, lo and behold, it turns out that Sir Charles Kemp, the head of the East India Tea Company, is actually Charlotte's uncle. Yeah. So Will and his uncle meet up, and his uncle's obviously Charlotte's uncle is very furious. And so he tries to have a bunch of his East Indian. He basically exposes. He's like, "This isn't a vicar. This is William Reynolds, the notorious mercenary who did all kinds of bad things over in India." And Charlotte's like, "No, it can't be." But then he sends a bunch of his men to attack Will. Will manages to escape with the help of one of the servants of the Holloway residence, and he eventually decides to go to the American colonies to make a new life for himself. So he goes to the American colonies. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention this, but he's kept the papers that are that say all this bad stuff about the East India Tea Company. So he's got these papers, and he's planning to use them to expose Charles Kemp and the East India Tea Company for the evil people that they are. But he flees the American colonies because he's not safe in England. He actually gets a job working in Benjamin Franklin's printing shop, and which is really funny because he goes there, he gets a job, but Sir Charles Kemp actually follows him to the American colonies because Sir Charles Kemp is looking for opportunities for himself in life. He wants to gain all this power and money, so he's basically comes to the American colonies. And this is at a time when just before the American Revolution, so everybody's kind of like the American colonists are kind of they're starting to rebel against England, but it's not open war yet. So Charles Kemp decides to make a name for himself. He has a bunch of his men go out and they attack the homes of Patriot leaders and stuff, and just people who support the Patriot cause. And Will actually decides to defend these people. So he dons a mask and takes up weapons and by day he works in Benjamin Franklin's printing shop, and by night he becomes an armed vigilante thwarting loyalist schemes. And he saves children and battles loyalist soldiers and does all this crazy stuff. And eventually, it turns out he discovers that Charlotte has actually come to the American colonies with her uncle. Because I think it was like her mom thought it'd be like a good opportunity for her. The American colonies are almost in a state of rebellion. But anyway, so eventually, Will finds out that Charles Kemp and his niece Charlotte are going to this big ball, and so he goes to the ball too because George Washington actually turned out George Washington, a bunch of other people are there, and Will actually thwarts an attempt on George Washington's life by some of Sir Charles Kemp's assassins, but he gets caught, and Sir Charles Kemp actually says, reveals to everybody, this is William Reynolds, a notorious assassin mercenary from India. And Will tries to get out of it by he says, I have the papers that prove that Sir Charles Kemp was the one behind all this. Turns out, however, the papers were swapped. So he ends up pulling out a bunch of blank parchments in front of George Washington. And so it looks bad for Will. So he gets arrested and taken away to this prison ship. Meanwhile, Charlotte, however, she's kind of torn. She doesn't know who to believe, her uncle or Will, but she overhears her uncle talking with one of his leaders in their home, and they're saying that they basically have this plan to destroy the city of Philadelphia. He's working with like this scientist, and they're going to basically explode the whole city. But they've got explosions and gunpowder in all these different underground parts of the city. And so when the Continental Congress meets to sign the Declaration of Independence, they're going to blow up the Continental Congress along with a lot of the city and throw the whole thing into disorder. And Sir Charles Kemp is hoping that the king will then reward him by making him like governor of the American colonies. Charlotte realizes her uncle is evil, so she goes to the prison ship and she rescues Will, tells him about the plot. They go off and they go to thwart the plot. Will goes and warns the Continental Congress, and at first nobody believes him, but then Benjamin Franklin's in the Continental Congress, and Benjamin Franklin's like, oh yeah, that guy works at my printing shop. He's trustworthy, Anyway, so he exposes them, he shows them the gunpowder barrels in the underground rooms all connected to fuses, and he realizes that all the fuses are all connected to this windmill on the river. And so he goes to the windmill where Charlotte has actually been captured because her uncle found out that she broke Will out of the prison ship. So he sent some of his men to capture Charlotte, and they're holding her tied up in the windmill. So Will gets there. He fights the uncle's men and gets through. He rescues Charlotte. He has a sword fight with the uncle. And there's a dramatic countdown scene in which they prime the explosives, and there's like a countdown timer till when the explosions go off. And at the last second, Will actually manages to thwart the explosion with, actually, in a bizarre twist, the aid of the uncle, which basically what happens is the uncle tries to run Will through with his sword, and Will springs out of the way at the last second, and the uncle slams right into these electric wires and like pulls them apart and basically dies from the electrocution. That then self-destructs the whole windmill. So there's a really dramatic slow motion scene where Will and Charlotte, they run and they jump out. They jump out of the windmill and into the water while the burning pieces explode all around them. And then some soldiers come and they arrest Will for being William Reynolds, the notorious assassin. However, Benjamin Franklin manages to pull some strings and he gets Will released because Will saved the Continental Congress from being blown up. And Will asks Charlotte to marry him, which the movie ends with them kissing and there's fireworks, explosions celebrating the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's a really good movie, and that's where it ends. It's really good. I think it's rated PG, which there are fight scenes. There's a few killing scenes. On the whole, though, I would say it's a good, wholesome family film with a lot of good values and morals kind of taught in it. Um, I would like you could definitely watch it with like your 10-year-old kid, maybe like 7-year-old kid. Just I think it's a really good movie, and I would definitely recommend it for the next movie night. And it's also a really good 4th of July movie. So when next 4th of July rolls around, if you don't know what to watch, there's a very good 4th of July movie for you to watch. But so yeah, let me go ahead and watch it and let me know what you guys thought of it. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.